1100 and 100.9 FM is KWWN, Las Vegas, K265EZ.
Las Vegas Sportsline is owned and produced by Vegas Sportsline, LLC. All opinions expressed by the hosts or guests are their own and are not endorsed by either radio station management or any of its advertisers.
It's time for the Las Vegas Sportsline. Brought to you by Caesars Entertainment, where every guest is treated like Caesar and every visit is unforgettable.
And here we go with a Wednesday edition of the Las Vegas Sportsline. It's our Caesars Entertainment Wednesday. Always a good show with Jeff Davis. He's the director of risk at CG, director of trading. And Jeff's on the phone with us right now. Teddy Covers is here. I'm Dave Kogan. Jared Justice producing the show. What's going on, Jeff? How are you?
Dave, I'm great. What a night of hockey last night.
Oh, man, I'm telling you. Yeah, we may as well start there.
Still singing Gloria.
Oh, yeah, really. And it's been one overtime after another in these Game 7s. And it was just a crazy game last night because the Blues just dominated the Stars. And I really thought it was going to be one of those games where Dallas somehow gets a goal and steals the series. But then it didn't happen. St. Louis got one past Ben Bishop, who was just immense last night. And the Blues are moving on. Is that one of the least attractive scenarios for you on the book side? Because I know a lot of people were believing in the Blues before the playoffs started.
Yeah, the Blues is essentially a disaster for us if they win the Cup. They were very, very popular amongst sharps and the public before the season, and we had a low price on them for, through November. And then January 3rd, they were worse than Ottawa. They were worse than Detroit. The white flag was at least at half-mast at that point. And we took some bets 250 to 1 and 200 to 1.
Uh-oh.
And don't look now, they're essentially one of the favorites. In our place, they're the favorite for obvious reasons. But this team is for real. This is a gutty group. And last night, you mentioned it, Dave, Bishop was incredible, and he gave a team that was as one side of a hockey game for 50 minutes as I've seen in a long, long time. And they had three really good chances to win it in overtime. The wraparound by Jamie Benn, I'm still not sure how that puck didn't go in the net. It took a freak bounce off the post, off Bishop's, the back of his head to fall into the crease to get everything to fall the Blues' way, but surely deserved the win. Going to be interesting to see tonight who they end up matching up against.
Yeah, it'll be the Avalanche and Sharks deciding their series tonight. And I'm just looking at some of the bet percentages around, and you can let us know if it's any different at Caesars, but it looks like the whole world loves the Sharks tonight.
Yeah, that's the case. We're pretty heavy on the Sharks, mostly public money. Over is very popular. We have a grand total of 0 bets on the under tonight.
Wow.
So we will be rooting for another 1-1 Game 7 type scenario. But we need the Sharks to win the series, so it's kind of turned into a decent spot where we figure to win a small amount either way. But as far as the game goes, this has been a really tough series to call, and every time you think the Avalanche might be done, they come with an incredible effort. Game 6, the Sharks took them to overtime, but wow, the Avalanche were much the better side. And when they get depth scoring like they did in Game 6, it's a different team. You don't have to just worry about McKinnon and Landeskog, and that could pose some problems. And as far as I'm concerned, I have no idea what's going to happen tonight.
In which case, you can make a case for the underdog if you have
I hope so, because I took a series bet on Colorado before this started, so we'll see what happens.
Yeah, so let me ask you this. When it comes to a series price, St. Louis versus Colorado versus St. Louis versus San Jose, is there a big difference between the two potential series prices? And who do you think the Blues match up better against? So that'll give you something to root for tonight.
Sure. The Blues would be the highest power-rated team of the three, in my opinion. But if they play the Sharks would have home ice advantage. Yep. I figure the Sharks minus $1.15 or minus $1.20. If they play Colorado, the Blues would have home ice. I think they would be a bigger favorite than the Sharks would. I would assume the Blues in the minus $1.35, minus $1.40 range over Colorado. And even though I have the Sharks as a better team than the Avalanche, I'm not sure that's – if you're in the Blues camp, the Sharks are not the team you want to play. The Blues – the one thing the Blues had trouble with Dallas was the speed of Klingberg and Heiskanen from the blue line. And Burns and Karlsson are a better version of Klingberg and Heiskanen. So I'm not sure if you're a Blues backer, the Sharks are the team you want to play. I think if you're a Blues backer, you're rooting for the Avalanche.
I would say that's probably accurate. And one other thing, I mean, the Sharks have just been, you can say that, I hate using the term, but they look like the team of destiny out there this year because they should be playing golf right now. I mean, it's just an incredible fluke that they got by the Golden Knights. And I think it's fair to say they've gotten on the right side of the it's like every time Colorado's made a mistake in this series, the Sharks have managed to capitalize.
Yeah, and I think a lot of that is just due to the Sharks' depth. They have 3 lines that can put the puck in the net.
Yep.
And it doesn't matter who they have on the ice. They're always dangerous, and the list goes on and on. And to me, that's going to pose a problem for the Blues because they have 4 defense. Even though they have 6 defensemen, they're really only playing 4 and getting good minutes out of 4. So, again, it all ties into the fact that, if the Sharks get by, I really like their chances against the Blues. And you mentioned it, Dave. They do kind of seem like a team of destiny. And every time you question Martin Jones, he comes up with a big effort. And every time they need somebody to dig deep, they do. I think if the Sharks win tonight, they're probably playing for the Cup in a few weeks.
Carolina and Boston, I don't know if either one of them feels like a team of destiny just yet. And nonetheless, they're set to meet in the Eastern Conference Finals. What are you seeing in terms of the action, and what are you seeing for Game 1, both series price and the first game?
Game 1 hasn't drummed up a lot of action yet, but the series price, we opened minus $1.35. We were first to market, and a lot of that played into the fact that I kind of thought McAvoy was going to get 2 games because I thought his hit on Josh Anderson was absolutely atrocious. The league gave him 1, and I think a lot of that has to do with the fact that he has no prior incidents at all.
Yep.
But, that got bet up as high as minus $1.60. It's back down to minus $1.50 now. I still think that's a little bit high. But this series to me is a 7-gamer. Carolina, people tell them they got a little bit fortunate against the Isles. Yeah, they got fortunate against the Isles to sweep them, but they were the much better team than the Isles, and they were going to win that series in 5 or 6 just based off what you saw in the 4 games. This is a big chance for Carolina in Game 1. Charlie McAvoy is your team leader in minutes for Boston, and they really only play 4 or 5 guys on D. Grzelcyk only plays about 16 minutes. So he's going to have to step up his minutes. And Clifton, who's playing 10, 11, 12 minutes a game as the 6th defenseman, has skated with Chara, so his minutes figure to almost double. So guys are really going to have to step up for Boston. If Carolina's going to win this series, winning Game 1 would go a long way because McAvoy is a giant piece not in the lineup for Boston.
By the way, we should mention that while the Blues were dead last in the NHL at the turn of the calendar year, Carolina wasn't a whole lot better. They were 23rd, and here they are in the Final 4. So in the NHL, pretty much anything can happen, and this year it really is.
Yeah, and you mentioned that about the Hurricanes, and the Hurricanes they started out like a house of fire, and then they went through a 2-month stretch where the puck just would not go in the net.
Yep.
A lot, for your local Vegas fans, kind of what happened with the Knights the first, 6-8 weeks of the season. But they didn't let it get to them, and they didn't change the way they play. They put a ton of pucks on net. They're a fast team. They're up and down. They're always putting the pressure on. And it turned around for them, and then they got hot, just like the Blues did, and they stormed their way really into the playoffs. And they got a lot going for them. That building's as toughest to play in as there is. And, they showed the guts of getting pounded by Washington in Game 5, giving up a half a dozen and coming back and winning Game 6 and getting down 2 in Game 7 and winning that game. So there's nothing to put past Carolina. They can get through any situation. And if you're looking for a bet, there's some plus $1.40s out there to win the series. And it seems like a good bet to me.
So shifting over to the NBA now, we had a couple of blowouts last night, one of which I was on the wrong side of. That wasn't pretty. The Raptors dominate the Sixers. That wasn't good for me or my bankroll. And the Nuggets blow out the Blazers. Now, each of those teams up 3-2 following those dominating victories. Let's talk about Game 6. What are you seeing for the early action for the Raptors and Nuggets in their respective series?
Right now, we've taken a little bit of Raptors -2 money. This is also popular with the public. Not really much action at all in the Western Conference, the Denver-Portland matchup. Last night, both of these games were really good for the house. There was a lot of dog money line in both games. And going into Game 6 and seeing that each of these teams has won a road game in this series, that figures to be the case. I would expect there to be some Sixer money line and some Nugget money line out there.
I got a feeling there's not a whole lot of Celtic money line action tonight as they go into Milwaukee. Most people think this series is over, and I really can't disagree with Kyrie Irving just mired in a terrible slump. Gordon Hayward, of course, just not doing much. It looks like a long haul for the Celtics to even get one more win.
Yeah, and I think Paul Pierce may have been wrong about this series after Game 1.
I think so.
It couldn't have been any more of an anomaly. They have no answer for Giannis whatsoever. He's kind of having his way. And I, like you, don't think there's going to be a Game 6 on Friday. But believe it or not, there's a lot of Celtic plus the points money tonight.
Yeah.
We're actually in a position to need Milwaukee right now. I don't really see what the number's kind of big, but I don't really see what the interest is in the Celtics. But the public is surely interested, and in what seems to be every NBA game, we will be needing the under tonight.
Well, I know one they're going to be interested in because it's Warriors and Rockets at Golden State tonight, and here we go. I mean, this is what the bettors and the fans are really into at this point, and no question it's going to be the big volume game.
Yeah, for sure. This series has done more handle than any of the other series. The Game 3 Saturday handle was enormous because it was Derby Day. The amount of handle in that game was insane. The home team seems to take money in this game or in this series every game, and we will be needing Houston tonight. We went to 6.5 earlier in the day to see if there was any Houston interest, and somebody we respect grabbed some 6.5. So we're going to be okay needing that side tonight. And Golden State money line sure is popular. There is a unnamed or unnumbered amount of three-teamers out there tonight playing against the Marlins, parlayed to Golden State money line. That is a very, very popular ticket tonight.
And it makes sense. You know, if you've been betting against the Marlins every day, you've made a fair bit of money this season. Yes,
and you'll probably continue to do so. They are not one of the teams we're going to talk about in Major League Baseball in terms of major problems for a few projected contenders because the Marlins weren't projected contenders. It begins with the Nationals. They're off to their worst start since 2009. They've got a whole bunch of people injured. The bullpen is absolutely awful. Dave Martinez, I've said this since last year, he is the worst game manager I've ever seen, and I've been watching baseball for a lot of years. The single worst in-game manager I've ever seen. He's got to be the first guy fired, doesn't he?
He probably does, and even though he's a terrible in-game manager, and to think that somebody is a worse in-game manager than John Farrell is mind-blowing, but that's for another day. This team is it's decimated. Soto's out, Rendon is out, Turner is out, Zimmerman is out, Adams is out. And outside of Doolittle, there isn't anyone who can get anyone out in the pen. They have 101 bullpen innings this year, 53 walks issued. That's not going to get it done. And while he probably is the first one to be fired, I'm not sure any manager could, the manager can't get these guys to go throw strikes and get outs out of the pen. He only has so many guys to choose from. So while I'm not putting this solely on Martinez, he's definitely part of the reason why they're struggling. And the NL East is no picnic, and they've got a long road ahead of them. And they've dug themselves a hole that it's going to be pretty tough to dig out of.
I think they're going to sell, by the way. Rendon basically wants Nolan Arenado money. And he's a really good player, but he ain't Nolan Arenado. And I wouldn't be surprised if they become sellers maybe well before